Hi, Empower Hour. So today I am really uber excited to bring to you a special guest who is a part of my family now and is an incredible human being, and I know has been a part of this incredible conversation that we've started, Miss Andrea Assef.
Hi.
Welcome. My surrogate. Twice.
Two times.
Two times. Here we are. So I know and you know how important this conversation is. So we're going to get into it. But first, what are 3 adjectives that describe you?
Oh my gosh.
I know. I always start it this way.
Okay. I'm patient, compassionate, and I'm just joyful.
So good. And yes, you are. I mean, I know you. You're actually all those things. Okay, so tell me, who was little Andrea? How did you grow up? What was your upbringing? And now doing what you do, did you ever think as a little girl that you would be? I mean, did you even know what a surrogate was? Walk me through that.
Okay, so growing up, I'm number 5 of 6 kids. I grew up in a very blended family. We all grew up in the same household. My mom is a saint, so raised all 6 of us together while my dad worked. And I was very attached to my mom. I was her little leech, she called me. And always was like the little mommy to all the babies. She also babysat a bunch of kids. So our house was always full. And I was always the little mommy, just taking care of all the babies around, and had like a special talent, I guess, the baby whisperer of the family. Mm-hmm. And then as I grew up, it was just the same. I mean, I loved kids always. Got married, had 3 children of my own. I did not think when I was younger I would be a surrogate. I didn't know what that was. But as I got older, it did cross my mind because I feared that I wouldn't have children of my own. Mm. So having my own kids, it was just still like a thing in the back of my head that there are women and men who can't have children on their own. So yeah, it's just, then it kind of, with COVID and being home with my son, it was just like, I think I should do that. I'm not done being pregnant.
Yeah. So, okay, because we are going to hyper focus on surrogacy, I'm going to just talk about that. When did you learn about it? And then walk me through the thought process of how you actually came to the conclusion that you were going to do it. Family support, your husband, like, what was the reaction?
Okay. So I guess when my oldest sister, she is, let's see, how old is she? She's 6 years older than I am. She was the last of us to have any babies. And so getting to that point, it was just one of those things that was in the back of my head that, oh my gosh, if one of my family members can't have a baby, I would totally do it for them. But then we all had our own babies and everything was great. But I guess it kind of finally came into like real play, and I started really researching it after my son was born. He wasn't even a year old yet. He was probably like 3 or 4 months old. And it was just one of those things that was like, well, I'm not done having babies. I'm done raising, well, not raising. Obviously, I have 3 to raise myself, but starting over, I guess. I'm done starting over with a newborn, but I would love to have babies. And so
because pregnancy is easy for you.
Yeah, I love being pregnant. And especially after the birth of my son, I felt so empowered. He came really fast, and it was totally unmedicated. And so going through that and feeling amazing after, I was like, oh my gosh, I can do this again and again and again.
Okay, so this is what separates you. One of the things that separates you from other pregnant people, because I was pregnant with 2 kids, hated it, did not enjoy it. It was not wonderful. I was not you, glowing goddess, and just happy and wonderful. It was not a great time for me, both pregnancies. You are very good at and love being pregnant.
I love it. I do. With my girls, it was harder in the beginning, the first trimester with both of them. And even the labor of my second born, because my first was a C-section. So with the second one, she was like a first labor in 30 hours. It was tough. But even after that, I felt so happy and excited, and I wanted to do it again. But so yeah, then I started really researching it and thinking about it because I just felt so great afterwards. And my husband, he when I brought it to his attention, Jeremy, he was just like, wait, what? Like, what are you going to do? And he's like, Andrea, that's like a baby's going to be out there. And I was like, no. Okay. Back in the day, it's called traditional surrogacy. That's how they did it. It was with the woman's egg, and it was her DNA. But
which is important because this is educating people that don't know. And so Jeremy, your husband, immediately
did not know.
Only thing he knew was that it was going to be your egg,
right?
Your baby, another sperm wandering in the universe somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, no, okay, let's look into it a little bit. And then also I found a surrogacy advocacy group, and their husbands also speak on there and kind of like fill other husbands in on like what to expect and like their journeys with their wives. And so we looked into that. I started, same as you, like Googling surrogacy agencies. Definitely there's thousands out there, like way too many. And, you start like reaching out and they're asking you kind of strange questions and you're like, maybe not. Okay, never mind.
This feels weird.
Yeah. So then the surrogacy advocacy group, they helped me find the correct agency. And then after we kind of found something for us, that's when we presented it to our families. And I just kind of came out. My family is very like open. We talk about everything. And so, and I have 4 sisters. So there's a lot of women, a lot of estrogen and babies around. And so I was around them and I said, so I think I'm going to have a baby for somebody else. And they're like, what? They're like, what? Wait, what? And so I was like, yeah, I really want to be a surrogate. I can do it. And they're like, you can? And I'm like, yeah, I know I can. I can totally do it. They're like, well, Andrea, you're going to like grow that baby and feel the baby. And aren't you going to feel attached? I said, I don't think so. I was like, I'm different in a sense. Maybe a lot of women, they feel already so connected to their baby in the womb when it's growing and they feel so in love. And maybe I'm kind of like the dad in a sense where they don't really like fall totally in love with the baby until they see it and are caring for it. Because I never really felt that with my 3 children. I never felt, I loved them, but I never felt that instant like connection. And so I was like, yeah, no, I can do it. I totally can do it. And they're like, a couple of them are like, I think that's amazing. Like, yeah, if you can do it, go for it. And a couple are like, I'm not going to lie, it's going to be tough to see you growing and not think that's my niece or nephew in there and not see them all the time. But if it's something you want to do, we support you. And my mom was the same. She's like, it's weird for me to see you pregnant because it's like, that's not my grandbaby in there. And I'm like, no, I know, Mom. But, it's just one of those things that even when I was pregnant, I just carried myself differently. I wasn't like rubbing my belly, touching it all the time. It wasn't anything like that. So I think it helped them to separate it as well. And so, then we went to Jeremy's family, and my mother-in-law's same thing, was just like, I could never do it, but I'm proud of you and we support you. And if there's anything you need, and I'm like, okay. So then we moved forward, and, it's just little baby step at a time. You have to get approved by so many people and so many different things. And once that each little step happens, it's like, okay, yay, like celebrating each milestone. And then you get to do the match call. And that's like so crazy and so exciting.
That was so weird.
It was.
And on the intended parent side, which is when you are the parent of the baby through surrogacy, you're called an intended parent. On our side, it was kind of the similar journey. I started with Google, the worst thing I ever did, because it was so disheartening. It was so overwhelming. And I felt like all these charlatans and con artists were trying to take advantage. And like, I did some random calls and it didn't feel right. It just felt wrong. Like, this isn't, I don't think this is what surrogacy is supposed to be.
Right.
And just through the universe and bumping into things and researching, I found a former elementary school friend of mine who now practices surrogacy and adoption law, reached out to her. And I asked her, I said, I know I haven't talked to you since 5th grade, but I follow you on Facebook and I see you do this. If I were one of your sisters, how would you guide me? And she said, you need to do it through an agency. some families, some people choose to do it without
Right.
agencies, without lawyers, and I'm sure it can work, but I would never.
Oh yeah, it's not
ever.
for me.
No, the agency, they just help cut out all of the weird,
Right.
unknown stuff.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. And they created the journey, the pathway for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And they are the ones through their algorithm. It's like a dating website.
Right.
They match you with who would be best suited for you based on their formulas and algorithms. You were my first call through the agency we went with. And I remember distinctly the second you came on the screen. It was COVID, so we had virtual
Right.
introduction. You're like, hi. And I'm like, hi. And it was like, boom. And then the more we kept talking, I'm like, I would be friends with her.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I would be her friend.
Totally.
She's so cute. And we look alike, like sisters.
I was a little bit nervous too. I was in Arizona visiting our friend's like new home, and it was like a week long that my match profile had been up.
Oh my God.
And so then I get an email and I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody wants to meet me. And so I'm like reading about you guys, and in it said you would want an experienced surrogate. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's my first time. Like, I hope they like me. I don't know. But
and we didn't know.
Perfect.
I just chose
Well,
experienced surrogate because I'm like, well, then they've done it before,
Right.
so they're trustworthy.
Right.
But then the agency walks us through what we don't know, and they're like, that doesn't mean that necessarily. We've vetted and we have put forward candidates who we know are viable and good
Right.
candidates, even if they're the first time around. And that getting that knowledge and education from them
Right.
helped me. And I'm like, oh, because I definitely feel there's a connection.
Right. Absolutely.
And it was so cool. There were a lot of little like things and coincidences
Mhm.
that, the universe gave us. And I'm like, okay, yes, this is the sign. This is it. And I mean, it was a long process.
it was.
I don't know. How long did that take until you actually
We're pregnant.
were pregnant?
I started my journey in November and we were pregnant in April. But we
What?
had a match. It was only 2 months. I think our call was in,
Yeah.
well, like 2.5. It was like early February. And then we were pregnant April 23rd was
Insane.
our first.
And I have to say, our story is, and even the agency and the lawyers, they're like, we've never seen anything.
Yeah.
2 times.
Well, the hospitals, the
Hospital
doctors.
goes so smoothly. But again, I think that speaks to our mindsets. And
Absolutely.
we didn't know each other from anyone
No.
ever. Both of our mindsets were so open and welcoming and with hope and positive and intention and wanting it to work
Yes.
and wanting it to be well for you and for us. I think that's really set the stage for our experience both times. And respectfully understanding that you don't have to do this
Mhm.
and that we're in kind of a vulnerable situation.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you too, but and just taking all of it into account and not ever thinking it was weird.
Yeah.
It
no.
was obviously something not common.
Right.
So that was weird,
Right.
but not allowing it to define the situation for us. It never was like, this is so strange. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't trust her. No, like you can't think that way.
Yeah.
You
It-
have to be in that mindset.
Absolutely. It was totally just, for me, it was just constantly having that like positive and manifesting like it's going to work. We're going to have a baby for this family
Yeah.
and we love them and they're just so happy and it's perfect.
Right.
Like I just, everything about it was
Yeah.
just like, we're just going to stay positive and celebrate all the victories.
So there's various ways for a surrogate to become pregnant. But okay, our journey was Mike and I went through the IVF thing.
Mhm.
You went through your own version of IVF.
Yeah, it was IVF.
So explain what you had to do to prepare to actually, and we're skipping over all the legal, all the paperwork in the front end before you even
Right.
take the first hormone shot.
Right. Which was probably like a 4-month process
Right.
before we even.
It's about, for us, it was about 4 months of back and forth, the contract, making sure that thing is airtight for you,
Right.
for us, making sure legally the baby is ours and
Right.
there's no confusion, there's no wonder, there's no what ifs. It is so
Right.
perfect and airtight. Nothing's going to go wrong legally. And then the escrow company, a lot of people don't know about
Mhm.
the money, the intended parents, because they wonder, I've heard, well, what if they run off with all your money, the surrogate?
Yeah.
That's not possible. If you do it this way,
Right.
like a house, you put money in the escrow company,
Mhm.
same thing. You put money in the escrow company and they release it as the surrogate reaches milestones in the pregnancy.
Exactly.
And God forbid it terminates or there's a miscarriage or whatever, that money then comes back to you. The surrogate gets
Right.
paid up until that point because they carried it up until that point.
Right.
So anyways, skipping over all of that, and we can talk about that another day.
Right.
Because that's not the fun part.
No, yeah. That's not the interesting part.
Talk about what you had to do to be physically prepared?
Okay, yeah. So leading up to, I'm a very active person as it is. And so I like to, run and exercise or whatever. So just taking care of myself in general, you have to be at least below a 30 BMI is what most agencies look for, just because fertility clinics and doctors, it's statistically you're more successful to become pregnant.
Right. So
stayed in that range. And then when it came time for the hormones, it was just a medical clearance from the fertility doctor. He went in, checked my uterus, and made sure like the lining and everything was where it should be. I don't know exactly like the numbers that they like to look at, but they go based off of your cycle. And so we had a medicated transfer or IVF, I guess is what we did. So we started me on birth control and just the active ingredient pills to start my cycle. And to control the cycle. So once they got to a certain point in my cycle, that's when they send me all the meds. And I only took estrogen and progesterone were the two hormones. And it's just 3 weeks that you start taking them. And one of them is like once a week. And then when you get to transfer week, you start taking them every day. And so I would take progesterone every day, and they were injections. I know there are different ways that some fertility doctors do it, but I know statistically it just seems to be a little bit more successful with the injections. And so I was just like, okay, no big deal. Like I can do it. That was really terrifying the first time though, because you're like, you can do it, I can do it. And then all of a sudden it's like a needle in your hand and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? But I really wanted to do it because it was, again, one of those things I was like, I want to feel like so empowered that I was able to do this myself. And so, did it for 3 weeks. And then transfer day, you just have to have a nice full bladder so they can see the straight pathway to your uterus. And it's just shot up in there like a little shooting star.
It was like 5-10 minutes. I was in the room with you, the OR's outpatient procedure, 15 minutes max you were in there.
Yeah.
And literally they just like put a syringe-like thing in there up into the uterus wall and bloop, pop the embryo right there and he clings on. And
you're just like, stick, baby.
I'm like, are we pregnant? Oh, can we say that yet?
Technically, yeah.
Technically at that moment.
There's a little embryo in there.
You're pregnant. We're pregnant. And then
we stay on the meds for typically most doctors will say up until like the 10th week of pregnancy. Our first journey with Ilias, my levels were just like rising like crazy. And so by 8.5 weeks pregnant, they were like, you can stop the meds.
Yeah.
And I think some have you wean off of the progesterone, but Dr. Kumar is great. And he's just like, you're done. That's it. Like, stop really taking them. And so same with Augustine. I think I was on them a little bit longer, but it was still only like 10 weeks. And so, once that's done, you're graduated from the clinic and then you get to go to your OB.
And you're just pregnant. It's like another pregnancy. Yeah. And so, okay. So then there's 9 months of waiting and you're going to the doctor's appointments. And I went to the first few. And then after a while, I realized, wait a minute.
Yeah, they're just routine.
I don't need to go. Because people ask me this. Right. They're like, so do you go? And like, and I'm glad I did go because the experience was that I thought it was going to be weird that they're examining you physically, your stomach and the inside looking around. But I appreciated not all doctors have this bedside manners, but the doctor we used looked at me when she was talking about the pregnancy.
Yeah. Well, it's your pregnancy as much as it's mine.
But it's funny because that's something I didn't expect. And it really stuck with me. I'm like, I thought I was a spectator and she was going to talk to you. But no, she's like, okay, so your baby is this. And she's talking to me as if I'm there. And I mean, you're there and she's asking you how you're feeling.
Right.
And I'm like, this is so cool. Like, this is it. Whoa. And that was it. So we went to routine doctor's appointments as you do, totally regular pregnancy. And then, like pretty uneventful for 9 months.
Which is nice.
Which is really nice. And you kind of just check it in. Are you craving anything?
Right.
How you feeling? Is he behaving?
Yeah.
And that's when I got to thinking, like, it's the analogy of a babysitter or like a teacher. And I wrote that in one of my comments to one of the people that didn't support the surrogacy. They said, she's the real mom, and she birthed it, and she's really the right mom. That's the real mom. And I said, well, just like a nanny, babysitter, or teacher, they don't think they're the real mom.
Right.
Because you've entrusted them for those hours of the day. They are the caretaker, and you trust them, and you want them to love your child and take care of your child.
Yes.
But they don't think they're the mom. I don't think they're mom.
Absolutely.
And the baby does not think they're the mom.
Exactly.
It's literally the same. It's just inside their body.
Right.
Oh, but they have some of her DNA. Studies have shown. Okay, so what?
Right.
Fucking deal. That still doesn't make her the mom.
Hopefully he gets the good parts.
I hope so. I mean, I think so far so good. We're doing pretty good with your DNA. But who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Who? Okay, then let's not do it and let me not have a baby because it might have some of her DNA. What?
I know.
Okay, that has come up. That's why I brought it up.
Right.
Okay, now this is the fun part everyone wants to know about. Labor and delivery. Talk to me about when you go into labor, when you're in the hospital. Are your emotions raging? Are you feeling so sad that your baby is going to be snatched from you?
Okay, so actually moving back just for a second to go with that, with the emotions. With Elias, I mean, it was like so easy, the pregnancy, the transfer, everything. With Augustine as well. However, after the transfer, I was a little bit emotional going back to the hotel. And it wasn't because I was like, oh, my baby. No, nothing like that. It was, I feel this is my last pregnancy or was my last pregnancy. And so the closing of a chapter, you know,
course.
Just like something you look forward to your whole life being, or at least me, having babies and becoming a mom. And so knowing that was my last time to do that or feeling that it was just emotional in that moment. But then through the pregnancy, you know, towards the end, I'm like, oh gosh, I can't wait to be done, you know?
Okay, quickly on that, I said it was an uneventful 9 months, but let's talk about that. For people that are very curious, throughout that 9 months, did you ever rub your belly or when you felt the kicks and you think, people think.
Right, you're going to be that
connection.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, oh, my baby, ever.
Never. It's so
I told you.
Different.
I told you.
It is so different because when you decide to have a baby as a family, which you and Mike, I'm sure, you go in like, oh my gosh, let's have a baby. Like you start planning and getting excited and then all the love that goes into it. At least that's what we did also with our children. And with the surrogate babies, it's completely scientific. Like you go in planning, obviously, but you're planning and wanting the love for another family and you see the embryo, like we said, being put into my uterus, which is like a tiny little speck. And then all of a sudden there's a baby there. There's no like love between a husband and wife that goes into it. Yeah, exactly. It's very, and I think our bodies are just so primal in that state that we just like, I just know it wasn't mine. And so I never felt that connection with the babies. I mean, I care for them and I love them and I was taking care of my body, so I'm taking care of them. But it was never a love as a mother and son. It was never like that. And when the baby would start kicking, it's exciting. And with Eli, I was able to catch a lot of it on footage.
I remember that.
With Augie, he was very shy. And anytime the camera came out, there was like no movement. And actually my kids and husband like hardly ever felt him move. I think the girls, Jude probably got to feel him the most. But other than that, and my kids, it's so funny that like I wasn't so like rubbing and connected, and my girls either. They were just kind of like, mom's just pregnant. Like it's just one of those things. But my son, he was like obsessed with my belly, but he just likes the big belly, I think, because it was like a pillow for him. But no, there was never any like rubbing or touching. And I was just talking to my best friend yesterday about it, and she was like, yeah, you're just so different. There's never any like rubby and just like, oh yeah, you can feel the baby. And you know, even like people around me, when they would ask, oh, how many months are you or whatever, you know, I would tell them, or they'd say, oh, you're having another baby, and I'd say, well, this one's not mine, but yes, I'm having another baby.
Blows everyone's minds.
Yeah. Once, oh my gosh, at a PTA event, this woman was like, how many months are you with your baby? And I'm like, well, it's not my baby, but, and then this other woman started cracking up, and I was like, what's, and she's like, it's not your baby, haha. And I was like, no, really, it's not. I'm a surrogate. And she's like, oh my gosh. And she just started cracking up even more. She was like, just so confused and, you know, like nervous laughing. And I was like, yeah, it's just, you know, I'm a surrogate 2 times. But Yeah.
Because
so,
it's not common. So
right. Yeah.
it's okay if people do that. Like, that's fine. Who
Yeah.
cares?
I enjoy it. I enjoy
Me too.
kind of just like laughing about it with them. So yeah, no connection. No connection whatsoever. I mean, obviously I just cared for the baby like I'm
Sure.
caring for my body, but
Yeah.
there was none
it.
of that. Yeah.
So
with labor and delivery,
regular, normal labor delivery, Mike and I go, the intended parents check into the hotel. I called it the hotel a few times. I'm like, this hotel doesn't have any extra blankets. Mike's like, we're in a hospital. Anyway, so we are just kind of there waiting with you. You're doing all the work, literally all the physical work. And we're just sitting there like,
well, it's exhausting waiting too. I've been in that position.
Yeah. And that's it. And depending on the doctor and health of the baby and the surrogate, they decide whether or not the intended parents can be there.
Right.
And luckily we could for both.
Yeah.
And luckily we had agreed previously that I was able to, if the doctor allowed it, deliver the boys, which I delivered both my boys, which I cannot ever thank you enough for like just being in the same mindset to.
Well, I remember with my son, so he came very fast and I always wanted to, but never knew it was like an actual option. It's one of those things that you see celebrities do, like pull out their own baby. But I was in labor with my son and the midwife at the time, she was like, do you want to grab him? And I was like, yes. And so I pulled my son out.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, leading up to with Eli, it was just one of those like, okay, these are like strangers. I don't need to see them like seeing everything. I mean, I love them, but I don't want them to see everything. And so driving to the hospital for Eli, I was like, honey, I'm going to ask the doctor if Gina can pull him out. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, I just feel like that's their moment, mother and son becoming one. And she needs that. And so we were able to do that, which was amazing. It was so magical. Right after that, like I looked at my husband and Jeremy's like, you did it. And I said, yeah. I was like, we're doing that again. And he's like, yeah, you are.
So in the delivery room
I knew
Elias,
we were going to have another baby for somebody. I didn't know it was going to be you at the time, but yes.
What?
Yeah. And so when it came with Augie, I was like, oh yeah, hands down. He's getting delivered by his mom. As long as he's good and, the right way. And
Mike didn't see anything. You were very clear. Like, I just want Gina. Right. Mike was like, that is fine with me. Yeah. I do not need to see anything.
Jeremy's the same. He never wants to see
Didn't want to see it.
I agree.
But honestly, I did see it. And your mind doesn't even think.
No, you're just like,
you're waiting for a baby. Like, it's amazing what happens. Mm-hmm. I'm like, now I understand how doctors and nurses do this all day.
Yeah.
You're not looking at a vagina. You're looking at a baby.
Yeah.
Like, this is wonderful.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, so for those of you wondering, it was perfect. I did feel faint after both times. So you
did do better though this time.
This time I did. I remembered to breathe. The first time I was like, I'm going to pass out. It was just so much adrenaline and emotion. And it was very overwhelming in the best way. Okay. This is it. This is what everyone wants to know. That baby is out and you see a baby. And we have footage of all this on our pages, on our Instagram pages. So please do check these videos out. It's profound. What is going through your mind? Oh my God, my baby.
So first with Eli, I watched and my eyes were open. I saw you guys become one and connected. And that like was instant. Just so many emotions. It was just so much joy. And like, that's why I did it.
Yeah.
Not that's my baby. She's taking him. No, none of that. I wanted to do it again, obviously, for somebody. And so with Augie, my eyes were closed and I didn't realize the doctor like put him on top of me, which actually is a question that I've seen too recently, like with another surrogate. She was like, oh, they put the baby on you? Is that something that you wanted or asked for? And I was like, actually, no, I didn't even realize it was happening. And then I was like, what's on me? And I opened my eyes and I realized the baby was there. But no, it didn't. I think maybe she felt, is that going to make you feel sad
Bonding.
Or something? Yeah. And no, it was just kind of like, oh, there he is. Like, I still no connection. And then just seeing you guys looking at him and just, it's like watching a YouTube video of a woman having a baby, but like not really like realizing I'm having the baby and just seeing them and you hear the baby cry and you see the mom and it's just like, it's just magic and it's not your magic. It's theirs.
But you're a part of creating it.
Yes.
Like you were a massive ingredient in creating that magic.
It's funny that you say that too, but I just feel like what I did, I feel like it's just the tiniest part. I mean, he has a lifetime to go with you guys, and they both do. And I just feel like that it was just like well, here he is, like
funny.
it didn't.
And we see it so opposite.
Feel
We're
like such a big deal.
For her, we wouldn't have these babies.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that happened. Now I know people still right now are listening to this,
right.
And what are they saying? She's really, really.
Oh, she looks so sad. Like she wants her baby. Oh gosh, no, not sad. Not sad. And I mean this in the nicest way possible to you guys. I mean, you guys are the parents, but it's very nice to be pregnant for 9 months and go home and sleep through the night and lay on my belly and not have engorged boobs and, just relax and have like my normal like life back. Like everything's normal. I can run again and go on roller coasters with my kids, and it's very. I don't miss having a newborn.
How wonderful.
So yeah.
So okay, both times after we had both boys, we obviously you're in one hospital room. We're like down the hallway in another hospital room, and I would text you and check in on you. I'm like, how you feeling?
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, if you were okay with it, I wanted you to see them right away. I mean,
yes.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And so I asked Mike, I'm like, do you think she'd be okay if we took them, Elias first? And you're like, absolutely, I'd love to see them. And this is like less than 24 hours after you're recovering, you're in your postpartum room. And so I wheeled both boys separately down the hallway to your room.
Yeah.
And I hand you the baby. What do you think? Because everyone's right now wondering, this is when her hormones are raging.
Right. No, I think it's a good closing moment. I feel like I've never struggled with postpartum depression or anything like that. And
which is real, because I did.
Right.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah. And I've seen it. And so for me, I feel like those moments were so important in helping to maybe not have that happen. I feel like it was just good closure to see, there you are, you've been with me for so long, but I know you're gonna do great and be great with your mommy and your daddy, and I'm so happy to see you and meet you. But like, it's just like, okay,
that's it.
Yeah, it's just like,
now go home with mom and dad.
Yeah.
Okay, clocking out. So another big question is, they're like, surrogates just do that for the money.
Yeah, absolutely.
You work, don't you?
Yeah.
You work for money.
Mm-hmm.
The teachers that teach your children every day work for money.
Right.
Nannies, babysitters, nurses, doctors, lawyers, pilots. But everything in our life is transactional. It is a business. Why on earth then people say it in a negative way.
Right.
Why on earth then should surrogates be vilified, and should it be taboo that they have found a way to create a business that they love? They're able to do it. Everyone wins here, and they make money.
Right.
How is that any different than any other job? So I'm just advocating for surrogates.
No, yeah, absolutely. I was just talking to Jeremy last night about this, and I told him, I said, I've never felt by any job I've ever had, and I've had some great jobs. I love working with children and things, but I've never done anything else that I felt so fulfilled to do. And even if it was just like a small time, I felt so fulfilled. And if I get paid for that, like what is I don't understand what the issue is.
You figured it out.
And who cares? Like, why surrogates do it? I mean, if you don't want to use a surrogate, don't use a surrogate. That's fine. But everyone has their own reasons. And I mean, I love that I feel like if I were to die tomorrow, I would die a happy woman, because I know that I did something that was just so meaningful to me. And if I can leave some money for my children now because of it, yeah.
I mean, absolutely is the goal. Mm-hmm. Why are we all working?
Exactly.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
So just for those of you who like say that, because I've heard it.
Right.
Please do educate yourself to understand that it's just a job.
Right.
It's just a job. And don't get confused with, well, it's body. I'm not going to get into the woman's body choice. I don't care about that.
Well, it was my choice.
That's what I'm saying. Some people are like, no, it's not God's way. It's not natural. It's not nature.
It's so funny that they say that, because it's like, well, wasn't Mary the first surrogate?
Is this thing on? I mean, that's going to incite a lot of people. A lot of people just got mad. But is she wrong? No, she's not. She's not wrong. So there you go. That's one way to see it. It's wonderful. And there's another comment I saw and I hear, well, it's traumatizing for a newborn.
Right.
Neurobiologically, they're ripping the baby from the only womb and mother and hormone they've known. And it's the mom and you're placing them with strangers.
I saw that too. And I saw, well, their blood sugar, you're not seeing that, and their cortisone and all these things. Well, if you've had a baby, you know, in a hospital, you know that they're constantly checking their blood sugar once they're born because it's something that's very important. And that's why we give them the colostrum and everything and the skin to skin, because that helps regulate all of those things. I mean, your babies looked exactly the same as my babies when they were born, when they were with you, you know, so.
Normal levels.
Yes.
Nothing, no agitation, No,
instantly calm on your chest.
On my chest.
Instantly calm.
I wanted skin to skin, which is an option because they ask you that.
Right.
And some surrogates, I guess, they do skin to skin. You can do options. You can do different things.
Whatever works for your journey.
Whatever works. It was important for me and Mike to do skin to skin immediately with both boys.
Right.
One hospital, I've seen this more normally, they take the baby out and they take them and do all the tests.
Right.
And then they hand them.
Mm-hmm.
With Augustine, they put him on your stomach, which I guess is just practice. And then, but you weren't skin to skin. You were covered and draped and all that stuff. And then they let me hold him. They didn't check him for like an hour. And I'm like, don't you want to check his temperature or something?
Yeah. I think because now most hospitals, they practice like delayed cord clamping and things like that. So since the placenta wasn't out yet or anything, it's just kind of like, okay, let's get that out. Right. Clip the cord or whatever. Right. But no.
Yeah. So we did skin to skin. And then we have the little guy and immediately calmed the second he was on our skin.
Mm-hmm.
It just
calm, eyes open, looking at you guys as if he would
identical to how I had kids, and I'm sure how your kids were born.
Exactly.
No, I would never know the difference.
No,
and so
he definitely didn't look traumatized.
No, and he certainly is not. And he eats like a little hog, and it's wonderful, and he's healthy and adorable and growing. He's 2 weeks now.
I know.
And we tried to do this podcast when you were pregnant because I thought that would be cool for effect, but now she's here postpartum, 2 babies. There you have it.
Glowing, so happy.
And cinching the waist. If you want to be a surrogate, you want to follow Andrea. She is not only obviously amazing and wonderful for doing this and creating opportunities for families, but she too believes in advocating for and sharing to change the narrative of what family planning looks like. And there are options for fertility, families that struggle with fertility, because it's such a shameful... Right. Not shameful. It's such a heavy, hard thing that so many people go through, and they do feel shame and they feel regret and all these things. But to know that there is another option, that you can have your babies, and whether it's your own embryo or another donated, who cares? You define what a baby is. You define what your family is.
Mm-hmm. That baby is going to feel love.
Not the people in the negative comment box.
No.
They're going to define your family. Go ahead, listen to them and don't do it.
Yeah.
Because you're scared, because it's wrong. Says who? It's not.
No.
I don't think it's wrong. You don't think it's wrong. And our sons don't think it's wrong.
Right.
You know? So any other things that I didn't cover that you think are important for people to know? Because I know there's a lot and we breezed over it kind of quickly. People ask me about bonding. They're like, you didn't carry it. Is it a hard time to bond?
Right.
And I know some celebrities recently have spoken about their experience. And it kind of bothers me that the only thing they talked about was that they didn't feel bonding with their baby. Well, it's sensational, and that sells on TV, not the goodness. For me, I saw them. I had 9 months to prepare and more to prepare that I'm having a baby. I'm having a baby. We're having a baby. It's our baby. So that you see this little baby and it's fully yours. And it's just your mind turns on and it's this baby and you hear the cries and you feed it. I didn't nurse it. Fortunately, you were able to nurse, or not nurse, but pump and provide milk and colostrum for the boys, which is so important to me. Somebody says, you're gonna feed the baby her breast milk. I'm like,
I've been feeding it for 9 months.
She grew them for 9 months. Why is milk any different? If anything, yes, I want her to do that. And so she would express the milk, save it, freeze it, and then I would put it in a bottle and fed the babies that way, thankfully. So they got a good start that way. But
well, when it goes back to your bonding, I feel like celebrities who feel like they weren't bonded, or they also feel like they're taking the baby from their mom. I feel like because you and I have such an open communication, and we bond, that it never felt that way.
True. Communication was key.
Right. Yeah. So it was never like feeling the baby was being taken from me or anything like that. It was just normal, just reuniting the baby. Yeah. So yeah, no, never. It is sad to see. And I guess, I can't speak for everybody else and all their surrogacy journeys, but for us and for me, what was really important is to have that open dialogue. And initially going into being a surrogate, I did feel like I would need to see the baby grow and progress. So that was something that I wanted post-pregnancy. Mm-hmm. But getting to know you guys, it was just one of those things that I was like, okay, you know what? If I feel at this point, if we didn't speak very much, if for some reason that didn't happen, I don't feel the need to anymore. I feel like they would be okay. Like
you are not in a place where you're like, oh, I would wonder how he's doing, in a sad way, longing way.
It's so nice to get the updates. I love having the updates and seeing the photos and all of that, but I don't feel that I need it. I don't feel that I would feel empty without that.
Great.
Yeah.
So there you have it, guys. I mean, a very quick snapshot of our surrogacy journey. And we share this, both of us, I speak for Andrea, that in the hopes that we are educating and giving people another option, educating people who either might do it or not, but just educating society at large, and to demystify this and to make it more normal conversation, just like adoption has been pretty normalized. Right. That seems okay. It's not so radical anymore. Neither is this. And this is our attempt at doing that by sharing. Yeah. So if you are still curious and have many questions, Andrea, how can they reach you?
You can find me on my Instagram, Andrea_Celine.
Can you spell it?
ANDREA_CELINE. Mm-hmm. And
do you take questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a public page. You'll see my 3 beautiful children on there, and you'll see your children on there. Go ahead and DM me. I will answer any questions. Yeah. I'm a totally open book.
And no question is a dumb question. Right. Because we don't know what we don't know.
Absolutely.
So, and same with me. You guys know how to reach me. We're open, continuing wide open books as much as we can continue to share and change the narrative for the better. Not really interested. I'm not, at least, not interested in hearing why you think what I did was wrong. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, you can share if you'd like. Probably won't get a response. But if you want to be educated, 100%. Not that you're going to agree with me, but just to learn more. I love that. I love that for you. Right. So anyways, thank you. We love you.
I love you guys.
Thanks for being a part of our journey.
Absolutely. Thank you for trusting me.
Yes. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.